All right, moving on to assignment number 17, simplifying expressions with exponents. This one I've got multiple steps to do. So we're starting to get more difficult, and when it gets more difficult, the key is to be organized. So the way that I organize these is, I've actually started abbreviating, so I'm just going to write n, and that's where I'm going to put the numerator, and d, that's where I'm going to put the denominator. So I'm going to do everything I have to do on the numerator, everything I have to do on the denominator, and then at the end I'm going to put them t for together. So here's the numerator, z. So here's how I set these up. I want to know what is the exponent on the two bases z as well as r, and then leave a little bit of space because you're about to write those exponents. And now I'm going to multiply. 3 times negative 3 for the z is negative 9, and then put a 1 here on the r if you need to. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3 on the r. And now I'm going to do the d for the denominator. Z and r are the two bases that I see in this expression. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. And negative 3 times negative 5 is positive. 3 times 5 is 15. All right, so now that I've done everything on the numerator and everything on the denominator, I'm ready to put them t4 together. Z to the negative 9th, r to the negative 3rd, divided by z to the negative 15. I'm pulling it from right here, the denominator, r to the positive 15. And now you're going to use rule number 2 to figure out those exponents. And I find it best, this is the step that I am going to write down when I'm subtracting, negative 9 minus, down here, negative 15. And that's a keep, change problem. And then the other one is negative 3 minus. And then the exponent on the bottom, the minus came from the rules of exponents. So it's this minus that. So that's negative 3 minus positive 15. So the minus comes from the rule of exponents. So it's this, negative 3 minus positive 15. I'm running out of room over there. Negative 3 minus positive 15. And that's the exponent on the r's. Okay, so I'm done. And I'm ready to answer the final question. What is the exponent on the z? 15 minus 9 is 6, and it's positive like the 15. And then negative 3 minus positive 15, well, that's negative. This is negative, and this is also negative. So that's a grand total of 18 negatives here. And I'm going to put a box around that because I'm done. Pause. All right, next question. So it's important to keep things organized. The numerator, the denominator. The numerator, the only base is y. I had a student correctly tell me that this was kind of confusing because there's no z up here. You could put z to the 0, there's no z, and then it would be 0 minus 3. Or you could just say that that's the 1 over or something over z to the 3rd, so that you recognize that that's going to be negative. I'm just going to leave that z to the 0 there. So let's see, y to the negative 2 times 5 is negative 10 is the numerator. And then the denominator, I don't do anything. So this looks like it's going to be easy. Z to the 3rd. So putting them together, y to the negative 10 on top over y to the 3rd, z to the 3rd. Just a sec. So I'm now answering the question, y to what power, z to what power? For the y, it's negative 10 on top minus 3 on bottom makes a total of negative 13. And then I just need to recognize, honestly, that z on the denominator like this means it's on the denominator, and that means that it's divided by z. So this is divided by z to the 3rd, and that's negative 3rd. So it's negative if it's on top, and if it's on bottom, then you could also write it this way, y to the negative 13 over z to the 3rd. Or you could put the y to the 13 on the bottom. So there's a lot of ways of writing that, but the way that it's easiest to type into the calculator, the computer, is like this, because this all you have to do is y caret negative 13 space z caret negative 3. The other alternatives, you have to understand order of operation and where to put the parentheses. So pause here. And the numerator. This is pretty much the same thing over and over. There's little tricks here and there that people get confused by. 5 times 5 is 25, and then the denominator. You can put a 1 here if you want to. T to the 1 times negative 3 is negative 3, and 4 times x to the 4 times 3 is 12. Putting those together, t to the 25th over t to the negative 3rd x to the 12th. The trick here is 25 minus negative 3, because that's negative 3 on the bottom, which is a keep, change, change. Hopefully you're getting used to that. So that's 28 is the exponent on the t. So my final answer is t to the what? T to the 28. 25 minus negative 3. Not z. What am I doing with z? Got z on the brain. X to the, and it's on the denominator. Somebody asked me last time, why is it negative? And it's because it's on the denominator, but you can also think that it's x to the 0 up here, so there's no x's. And so the exponent on the x would be 0 on top minus 12 on bottom is negative 12. However you think of it, you've got x's on the denominator, and if you're dividing by x's, that means the exponent could be negative. All right, pause here. All right, the numerator. I've got two bases, y and t. Y to the what? Y to the negative 15, because it's negative 5 times 3. T to the what? Well, negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. Now the denominator. Y to the what? T to the what? Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15, and 2 times 3 is 6. Now you put them together. Y to the negative 15, t to the negative 12, divided by the denominator, y to the negative 15 again, t to the 6. Now, I could just robotically write down negative 15 minus on the denominator negative 15 and then figure that out. But what I'll notice is that I have exactly the same thing on the numerator and the denominator. So everything is going to cancel out. I'm going to be left with no y's. So let's see if that pans out. Negative 15, and let me change. Negative 15 plus 15 is 0. Why? Because everything is canceled from the top and the bottom. And now the other one is negative 12 minus on the bottom 6. And this is negative, and more negative makes negative 18. So that's a total of 18 negatives. So there's no y's. I could either write y to the 0, or I could just leave it out entirely because there's nothing there. T to the negative 18. All right. So that's correct. It would also be correct to put y to the 0. Pause here. All right, and at this point, and at any time in the video, if you decide that you've heard enough and you're ready to try them on your own, especially when it's front and back like this, I'd like you to listen to half of it, and then you can see notes on the other half of it, or you can continue listening to me. That's the nice thing about the video, right? If you get this, then you can just finish it on your own. Otherwise, you can see some more examples. So if you want to pause and finish this side of the page on your own, then I would suggest you doing that. So that's x to the 3rd on the numerator. And then the denominator is distributes x to the negative 4, because it's 4 times negative 1. Q to the negative times negative is positive 4. Put them together. X to the 3rd on top, x to the negative 4th, q to the 4th on bottom. And so that's, for the x's, it's 3 on top minus negative 4 on bottom. And that's keep, change. And then for the q's, I've got them on bottom, and so they're going to be negative. So that's going to be negative 4 on the q's. Q to the negative 4, which tells you to put them on the bottom. So that's why negative 4 means divide by q 4 times. Q 4 times. Let me just remind you again that, yeah, this does still mean 1 over q 4 times, which is the same as divide by q 4 times. And then 3 minus negative 4 we decided was 7 for the exponent on the x. And pause here. I'm really hoping that by now you've paused and you're starting to do these on your own. The numerator, distribute the 5 to both things, the x and the k, x to the 5th, k to the 5th. The denominator, oh, not y, k. The exponent on the x is negative 25 because it's 5 times 5, and 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Put them together. X to the 5th, k to the 5th on top. X to the negative 25th, k to the negative 10 on bottom. That's 25 right there because it's right here. And then put them together. On the x, the exponents give you 5 minus on the bottom negative 25. And for the k's, 5 minus negative 10. Those are both keep, change problems. Keep, change. So they're both going to wind up being big positive numbers. X to the 30th, 5 and 25, k to the 15th. That's a bad k. Everybody always complains about my k's. k to the 5 plus 10 is 15. Pause. And this is actually an important detail, both when you are answering on Khan Academy and for the test. This would be x caret 30 space k caret 15 is how to enter that in. The reason I'm training you for that, you are going to need to know how to use an equation editor on the AZ Merit. So if you type this in to the equation editor, it will work. Like, it will do what you want it to do. Okay, next question. In the numerator, it's -2 times -2 is +4. And in the denominator, 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. They're both positive because it's 2 negatives in both cases. K to the 4th on top over k to the 6, a to the 9th. So that's 4 minus 6 is -2. And then the a is on the bottom. Pause. Okay, for this last question, I'm going to change to orange. A to the -2, k to the 5 times 2, distributing gives you 10. And then on the denominator, this is actually a little bit trickier than the last couple. A to the 3rd, because that's 3 distributed to the a. K to the -9th, because that's -3 times +3, 9th. And then putting them together, a to the -2, k to the 10th over a to the 3rd, k to the -9th. For the a's, the exponent is -2 minus 3, and for the k's, the exponent is 10 minus -9. So for the a's, -2 and -3 make -5, and for the k's, this is a keep, change, 10 and 9 make 19. I can do a better 9 than that. 19. All right, so that's these notes for 17. Probably the hardest of the exponent group. You are also going to see like even harder ones that have coefficients in front. So I'm going to deal with the coefficients in front in the next assignment, which is number 18.